Suffice to say, Fairy Tail Hunter's quest has really picked up over the last couple of batches of chapters, especially the most recent 4, with not only the reveal of the Black Wizard Ferris, and Ignia's plans for the new true Dragon King's Festival, Ferris having Acnologia's missing arm from the end of Tartarus, and now the Oracion Sechs, which are demons from the books of Ferris that Ferris had created. And now we not only have the names of all of them, but one of these demons from the books of Ferris is actually Master Zero from the original Oracion Sechs, who died at the end of Tartarus due to Cobra after they all escaped from prison. And so, my thought process went to not only how strong these guys could be, but what could their abilities possibly be right now based off their names and the baseline personalities that they've given off with their dialogue. As I feel like we're going to wait a few chapters before the Oracion Sechs end up joining in this fight where Team Fairy Tail is trying to destroy the giant Lacrimas to stop the widespread dragonification of the citizens of Giltina. So I feel like this three-way war is going to expand even further throughout the series, and very select characters are going to fight against these Oracion Sechs members, especially if they divide and conquer. Specifically Master Zero, as he has a very big bone to pick with Fairy Tail, specifically due to the Nirvana incident. But before I go into my thoughts and speculation for the discussion, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And also, if you want some nice energy or focus or some great hydration, go check out Advanced GG, who I am currently partnered with, and use my referral link down below and my code GreekWeeb10 to get 10% off your order with a vast variety of collabs and flavors that you will most assuredly enjoy. And for you Haikyuu fans, you will love the Yubari Burst. It is probably my personal favorite right now, and I also have the thermos that they got with their collaboration with Ice Shaker, so get that as well. I would highly recommend it, as it is my personal favorite right now. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. So let's briefly go over the names of all of the Oracion Sechs members, and I'll go by one on what I believe their abilities could potentially be. Obviously, with Master Zero potentially being the strongest member, as he was the last one to get his title drop, and he definitely has the more personal stakes in this section of the story, so I do think he might be the strongest one there. We also have Blade, Gate, Daemon, Bird, and Gaia. Now, all 6 of these characters have really cool looking designs, though I stated in my chapter review, I'm not the biggest fan of the names Bird, Blade, and Gate. Blade's kind of fine, but Gate and Bird doesn't really feel like it'd be super intimidating. But it could also be the thing where these are more direct translations, and thus, in Japanese, it would probably sound a lot cooler for all we know, but that's just me personally. The names will probably grow on me as things progress through the story. But let's start off with Master Zero. Now, Zero has a wide variety of magical abilities, like darkness magic, telepathy, able to use self-destruct magic circles, organic body link magic, archive, and to an extent, requip, as he did kind of use it very briefly. One in the manga, he requipped a dagger to try and injure Jalal so Wendy can heal him, and he also requipped into his brand new outfit after Master Zero awakened after the 6 prayers the rest of the Oracion Sechs were taken out, as well as a bit of archive magic. So, Brain/Zero right now has a wide variety of magical abilities, with his most iconic attack being Dark Capriccio, which is an attack that can pierce through any defense, and Zero can actually manipulate it in midst of firing it to follow his enemies. But his most dangerous attack is definitely Genesis Zero, which he gathers large amounts of dark magic around his fingertips, and then just targets one person trying to erase their soul and very existence like he tried to do with Natsu. Even Midnight did this in the Key to the Starry Heaven arc. So already, Zero has a bunch of different magical abilities that he can use. But the fact that he is a demon from the book of Ferris now, the whole idea, if this is similar to how the demon books of Zeref work, like the Tartarus demons, the demon gates, perhaps Ferris managed to create curse power for him. Perhaps Zero could use not just his own magical abilities, and maybe now that he's a demon, they are very much enhanced, but if he has a curse, what could this curse potentially be? It might have something to do and tied to his name, for all we know, and it might have something to do with bringing things down to 0 or erasing things, because all Zero wants to do is just destroy things. He is kind of a bit like Acnologia in terms of wanting to destroy things, though Acnologia had a reason that evolved into just sheer destruction. Meanwhile, Zero is more or less just destruction for destruction's sake because he likes it. So for all we know, his curse could have something to do with either diminishing or erasing somebody's strength, or perhaps just destroy anything that he could come into contact with. Or it could be something to do with erasing somebody's magical ability or diminishing it to 0. There's not really much we can speculate off of this. For all we know, he just has his baseline magical abilities, maybe some new spells, or a powered version of Genesis 0, where he can just create this whole sphere to devour and erase somebody's soul, like, instantly around them without having to surround it within his fingertips and launch it. That'd be pretty interesting as well. There's still a bit that we have to consider when it comes to Zero as one of the demons. And since it was stated by Ferris that his exposure to Nirvana had something to do that potentially helped make it easier for her to make him become a demon and made him more of a demon, perhaps Nirvana's power could have seeped into him. Maybe he can also now switch light and dark to an extent, or maybe just plunge everything to nothingness with the powers of Nirvana in a very twisted way. Again, this is all purely speculation on just the name Zero, because there's not too many context clues outside of Zero wanting to destroy things, so for all we know, it's just a baseline power-up with some new spells, or a curse that could just revert things to 0 or just erase things, similar to Genesis 0, like I just mentioned. But yeah, Zero basically took up a good chunk of this video. Not much else for me to say on him right now, but I look forward to seeing more for Zero. Let's start off with an easier one, which is Gaia. Now, based off the name Gaia, chances are he has some sort of earth magic or a curse based off of earth. Perhaps being able to manipulate the ground around him, and in case people create a bunch of different attacks through the earth itself, rock-based moves, etc. Maybe it'd be cool if he'd use attacks similar to like Deanne from Seven Deadly Sins, maybe even create golems from the earth. Now, in terms of if there is a curse, what could it be? There isn't too much for me to really speculate on, but his dialogue has to do with love, stating the world should be overflowed with love. Perhaps it might have something to do with caring for somebody. Maybe it's a curse that can manipulate somebody's love for somebody else. Maybe flip it, or turn it into power for himself, or a weakness that drains their abilities, or perhaps having them being crushed under the weight of their own affection for somebody, or just their own love. That'd be pretty interesting if that was the curse for Gaia, and if he has the ability to manipulate Earth as well on top of that, then that would be a pretty easy win for the most part and be a very tough fight to deal with. Next up is Daemon, who is my favorite for obvious reasons. Look, I'm a simp, let me just be who I am at some point. But with her dialogue in her name, and basically melting things, my guess, she has some sort of ability that melts objects and people. Perhaps some sort of acidic type ability, whether it just be through touch, or creating just a wave of acid, or some form of liquid that will just erode and just melt things upon touching. And that could very well be her curse, and it could end up devolving into something else, perhaps even melting away somebody's magical power. I know I'm stating things to work against somebody's magical power, but I'm doing this in the extent that curses work differently from magic, and it'd be pretty interesting if Ferris created demons whose powers could work against magical power, as if to fight back against pure magical power from regular humans, and demons with curse power could just push everything back, erase it, melt it away, etc. And I think that'd be pretty interesting if that were the case. But based off her dialogue and her personality, it seems very much like just melting things is her ability. How exactly she melts things, it could just be a liquid, could be acid, or it could just be something else that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But either way, it is an interesting thing to consider, considering that it's melting, so it could be a variety of different things that could affect this. Now for Bird, I really think this is going to be the simplest terms. He probably just has the ability to soar through the air, have talons, maybe he has a bird form. Maybe he can become any type of aerial animal and just use their traits in a variety of ways. Maybe he could even summon just demonic birds to fight for him, and maybe he can control the gusts of wind, which would actually make him a perfect enemy for Wendy to face off of, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But he he seems like the simplest, one of the simpler ones to really consider, and I can't really think of anything else for his curse ability outside of maybe using gusts of wind to blow away magical power. Perhaps maybe turn anybody who he manages to weaken to an extent through battle into perhaps a bird that cannot fight against him and they end up losing their free will. While bird is definitely the simpler one at the moment, for all I know, something a lot more creative can be done with his ability, whether it be magical or curse-based. Now, while his dialogue talks about making dragons and humans fall to the ground before their might, I'm not really too sure if that would apply to his magical ability. Perhaps he creates strong gusts of wind that keep people down. Maybe he has gravity magic or curses based off of that. There's not too much for me to really consider about it. Or maybe he could just alter his appearance to gain specific abilities off of magical birds, for all I know. There's not too much for me to really consider, but also stuff that I feel like are incredibly obvious that people are going to point out to me in the comment section. So please, if you have really cool ideas for these abilities for not just Bird, but everybody else, let me know in the comment section down below. It would actually be really cool to talk to you guys about these potential possibilities. But that's really all I got for Bird. I don't really have any big ideas for him. Next up, another simple one, Blade. His dialogue, he'll cut them down with a demonic blade, and with his name being Blade, he definitely is a swordsman. Now, his sword could potentially cut through many things. His ability could probably be to cut through anything, similar to how Kyria says that her Dragon Slayer abilities can allow her to cut anything, and also has a psychological one, like an illusion-based one, to quote-unquote cut somebody's strength, put them under hypnosis. So perhaps, with Blade's ability, whether it be magic or curse, he can cut through people's magical spells, attacks, or just cleave through magic itself, or just cleave through anything, which would fit pretty well with the fact that he'll cut down anything with his demonic blade, and his name is Blade, so cutting through almost anything would fit pretty well with his namesake and his dialogue, and with how straightforward he is with how he's talking at the moment. So, definitely a simpler one. Demon Blade, cut it through. There might be something more to it. Perhaps his demonic blade could add a curse to somebody else if they're cut by it, drain them of their strength, perhaps making it so they can't use their abilities, perhaps making them fall under some sort of influence. There is a lot we could end up considering if there is, let's say, a curse or a status effect from his demonic blade that can be added on top of it. There is things to consider with this simplistic ability that we can just keep adding stuff onto it, which would be very fun to see if any of this is true. And with that, I'm looking forward to see whether I'm right or wrong in that aspect. But the last member of the Oracion Sechs is Gate. Now, namesake, very simplistic. His dialogue states of releasing our power. So perhaps his ability has to do with sealing things. Now his name's Gate, so what happens when you put things behind a gate? It's usually to seal them or block things off or to block somebody's path. I don't think it'll be a literal gate for him to manifest for all we know. For all we can tell, his ability could be to seal things. Maybe he's sealing magic or a curse that seals people's abilities, attacks, maybe even memories. Or perhaps even seal people's injuries. My mind immediately goes to Sakura from Black Clover with how all the different ways that she utilizes sealing magic. So perhaps Gate, if his abilities are to basically seal things or unleash things, that would be pretty interesting to add into the mix. And this works whether it be a curse power or an actual magical ability. Because if he faces an opponent, he could perhaps unlock his own power, or perhaps seal away all or a good chunk of his opponent's abilities to make it easier for him to fight. This does put into perspective that any fight against him could be more strategy-based than full force-based, for all we know. Again, it is intentionally vague, and there is the possibility that Mashima will come up with something really creative with not just Gate's abilities, but everybody in this new group of demons to play with their expectations and do something completely unexpected. That is something to consider. Now lastly, I'm going to throw this out there. If these demons are similar to the demons from the books of Zareth, specifically the Tartarus demons and Natsu, perhaps all six have Ethereus forms, meaning that their abilities will not only get a huge boost, but they'll also have a change in appearance, to be a bit more demonic in a sense, or have a different change in their abilities and perspectives. Ethereus forms are really cool, and when the demons of Tartarus did it, it enhanced their abilities to a whole new level. So I think with the Oracion Sechs, it'll be a waste to not have them be Aetherius, but perhaps the Aetherius powers are more specific to how Zeref created demons, so the possibility of them being Aetherius is likely, and I think that'd be very cool. And that would probably tie into maybe Gate's whole ability. Perhaps a subsection of Gate's ability is that Ferris made it so that his power would seal off or close off their Aetherius forms until Gate is either defeated or when they all feel like they need to access their Aetherius forms. And for all we know, their Aetherius forms, if we really want to dive into it, might end up being a lot more powerful and add more to their initial abilities to make things a bit tougher for our heroes. There is a lot to consider. Heck, it'd be pretty interesting if Ferris did something to give them a piece of Acnologia's powers as well to an extent, at least in raw strength, because she did state in chapter 165 that she gained her abilities after getting Acnologia's arm. So there's also the possibility that she used that power from Acnologia's arm to create these demons as well. That would be really cool and interesting, that she used the power of probably one of the strongest characters in the verse to create these demons and as a baseline for their abilities for all we know. Or at least baseline for their raw power or their Aetherius forms. That would be interesting. Granted, that would make them way too powerful for the average person, because even if it is just Acnologia before, right at the Tartarus arc with that arm in terms of power, it might be too much for a lot of other characters since Acnologia was incredibly powerful at that point as well. But for all we know, it's just a small bit of it. So that's just a theory that I want to throw in there for the possibilities. This will most likely not be true, but it's just an idea that just floated into my head as I was going through this. But let me know what you guys think about the Oracion Sechs and their abilities / curse abilities that could initially be introduced to the story and how they would potentially work with your own ideas for what you think they could be. And how do you feel about the idea of them having Aetherius forms, or the possibility that they are created with a baseline from Acnologia's severed arm, which gave Ferris her abilities from what she stated? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and ensures you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I'm planning to make a lot more fairy tale based content, just like talking about stuff in the manga, as well as everything from the original fairy tale as well. So let me know if there's specific things you'd like me to talk about as well in the comments. And look forward to more. Now with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.